Hello again, Stephen. Well, I escaped it for the last contract, but now I am back on night shift, so that's what we are going to be talking about today. This video is going to be all about night shift. There's a bunch of stigmas that go along with working night shift, but if you are a clinician who hopes to work in a hospital someday, chances are you're going to run into night shift at some point or another. I'll start out by saying that night shift is not my favorite shift. There are some people who like night shift. We call them crazy people. I don't care for day shift either. My favorite shift is mid shift, but being a travel nurse, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever shift the contract is for. So most of the time I end up being on the night shift. Even though it's not my favorite shift, night shift is not all bad. One of the best things about night shift is management is not there. I've had some managers that I like, but not having the higher ups in the department hovering around you while you're doing your job during your shift, that is a blessing. Now in that same vein, just like managers aren't there at night, there are a ton of other departments that aren't there in the hospital at night. It varies by hospital, but EKG technicians, phlebotomists, pharmacists, certain imaging departments, all of those departments might shut down at night, which means you're going to be working with much more limited resources. That's bad because it's always nice to have resources to help you do your job, but it's good because it makes you much more independent as a nurse. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a report from a day shift nurse that says this hasn't been done and this hasn't been done because we're waiting for various departments to come down and do their job, and this is a job that could have been done by a nurse. So if there's a lesson to be taken away from this, use your resources wisely, but if they are busy, do not let it impact patient care in a negative way. Take advantage of those resources without relying on them. The next part of working night shift is that you are working at the least busy time of day, around like 3 or 4 in the morning. So emergency rooms are staffed according to projected patient volume, meaning that it's going to be most staffed. You're going to have the most nurses and you're going to have the most parts of the department open at around like mid-afternoon, around 3 or 4 p.m. That's going to be the busiest part of the day. And then 3 a.m. is when it gets significantly less busy. And so that's when you're going to have the least number of nurses and you're going to have the least amount of the department open. Especially if you were getting slammed earlier at the start of your shift, it's nice to hit that point where it gets less busy and you can sit down and breathe a sigh of relief and take a break. It's not good when you have those nights when a whole slew of sick patients roll in the middle of the night all at the same time. This is when the lowest number of nurses are working in the department during the day. So if you get hit with a bunch of critical patients all at the same time, it doesn't take very much to put a great strain on your resources. It can get really bad really quickly. So then how do I do night shift? Well, there are a number of different ways that you can do it. This is just the way that works for me. I was a night shifter before I started traveling, and I have worked multiple night shift contracts over the past couple of years as a travel nurse. So it's safe to say I have a fair amount of experience in knowing what works for me at least. So let's use what I'm doing right now as an example. I'm recording this video on Friday and I work Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So my next shift is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So today I sleep in just slightly till around 9 or 10 a.m. I go about today just like normal because keep in mind this is one of my days off, so I need to take advantage of having a day off. And then tonight I'm going to stay up late until around 4 in the morning. I will then sleep for 8 hours. So tomorrow I'll wake up around noon or 1 p.m. That gives me a couple of hours before work where I can do stuff or just wake up, get ready for the shift, and then I'll go to work at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. I'll get off work at 7 in the morning, come home, try to get to sleep around 9 a.m. and then we'll sleep till 3:30 p.m. A lot of people sleep later, but I find I need a couple of hours to wake up before going to work. I'll repeat this until my days of working are done, and then in this case, when I get off Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., I'll go to bed at 9 a.m. and then we'll wake up at around 1 or 2 p.m. That way I didn't have a full chunk of sleep. It's more like I took a nap, and then that night I will be able to go to bed at a normal time, and in doing so, I have now switched my schedule back. This is what I have found works best for me because it allows me to take advantage of my day off, and it allows me to switch my schedule from days to nights fairly quickly. Then the other big aspect of night shift is when do you eat? I do not do this in a good way. I don't like eating at work on night shift. And I think this goes back to the first job I ever worked as a night shifter was at such a busy hospital. You never got a break and you never got to eat. So it's hard to get out of that mindset. And in doing so, nothing really tastes good. I've tried eating breakfast, I've tried eating dinner, I've tried eating late night snacks at work, and nothing really sits well with me. So what I do is I eat right before and I eat right after. Like I said, this is not the best way to do this. So I end up not eating for about 12 hours. I'll get hungry around like 3 or 4 in the morning, but it's not hard to push yourself then till 7 in the morning when you can eat. So it works for me, but if you are able to eat on night shift, you will be so much better off. You won't be hungry at work, and potentially you could sleep in longer because you wouldn't then have to eat before you got onto your shift. You could sleep in a couple hours later than what I do, eat at work, and in doing so you get more sleep and you're not hungry during your shift. So I fully acknowledge that there are better ways to deal with that aspect of night shift, but this is just what I have become accustomed to doing, so this is what works for me. So that's just my little blurb about working night shift. It's not bad, but I really wouldn't wish it on anybody. Well, that's all I have. It's about 8 p.m. right now, which means I have another 8 hours before I can go to bed, so I'm gonna make myself a cup of coffee. Stephen, I hope that you make a video on our channel soon, and as always, I will talk to you later.